John Wick, Chapter 5, Confirmation and Everything We Know. The future of John Wick, Chapter 5 is uncertain, especially given the events of John Wick 4, but the prolific dog-loving hitman could still return. John Wick, Chapter 4 was seen by many as a highlight of the franchise, with audiences and critics praising the action, while also being surprised by the conclusion that suggested the series could be over. However, there has been some John Wick 5 news since the release of the fourth film that hints there could be more John Wick adventures to come. The John Wick franchise began as a fun and wild action movie that restarted Keanu Reeves' career. From there, each sequel has built on the mythology of the world in which these movies take place, while solidifying John Wick himself as one of the greatest action characters of all time. John Wick, Chapter 4 saw him attempting to clear his business with the High Table and finally find peace. Sadly, the peace is short-lived as John seemingly dies moments after his victory. Nonetheless, John Wick 5 News is determined to keep the franchise alive for at least one more chapter. John Wick, Chapter 5 Latest News. With discussions bouncing back and forth regarding the latest installment in the action franchise, the latest news sees Keanu Reeves weigh in on John Wick 5. The beloved action star has anchored the franchise as the title character through 4 movies thus far, but his return in the prospective John Wick 5 is anything but certain. Not only did his character seemingly die in the 4th movie, but Reeves has now made it clear that he might not be up to the physical demands of the role. As he moves into a new phase in his career, John Wick might not be on the cards for Reeves because of his age. When asked if he'd return, Reeves said, "My heart does, but my knees are saying right now, you can't do another John Wick." This is a factor not usually considered when discussing his return, and the 60-year-old actor is noted for his spree performances. However, as he moves into a new phase in his career, John Wick might not be on the cards for Reeves because of his age. However, he is set to return in a cameo in Ballerina, meaning the character could pop up in any capacity in the future. John Wick, Chapter 5 was confirmed. John Wick, Chapter 5 is confirmed to be in development despite the ending to John Wick, Chapter 4. The announcement came shortly after the 4th movie's release, with Lionsgate Motion Picture Group president Joe Drake revealing that they would begin working on ideas for the next installment. Drake suggested that the ending of John Wick, Chapter 4 could be interpreted in various ways, and it is not necessarily the definitive conclusion it might seem to be. However, since the announcement that a 5th movie was coming, little progress has been made on its development. Furthermore, director Chad Stahelski has come forward and dispelled many rumors. Stahelski has flatly stated that he isn't currently working on the 5th movie, and that means the project is likely stalled for now. It's highly unlikely that the studio would wrench the project away from Stahelski, so John Wick 5 is in limbo at this juncture. Other updates from people like Keanu Reeves seem to discuss the project in a theoretical sense, meaning the project isn't in active development. John Wick, Chapter 5 Cast. The John Wick 5 cast would need to have Keanu Reeves returning to star in the title role. John Wick may be his most beloved character at this point, and it is impossible to imagine the franchise continuing without him. Reeves addressed John Wick, Chapter 5 possibilities, saying, "The only reason we've had a chance to make these movies is that people have liked what we have done. So I think we have to wait and see how the audience responds to it." The reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, but it still leaves the question of whether it was a satisfying ending. If Reeves does choose to return for John Wick 5, there are some other characters from the franchise who could return as well. John Wick, Chapter 4 ends with Winston and Bowler King visiting John's grave, expressing uncertainty which suggests one or both of them could have helped fake his death. John also made 2 new allies in the 4th movie with Donnie Yen's Kane and Shamir Anderson's Tracker, who could be back. Also, with Reeves appearing in the Ballerina spin-off, that movie's star Ana de Armas could appear in John Wick Chapter 4 as well. John Wick Chapter 5 story. As many franchises before have shown, knowing when to quit is essential to a franchise's legacy. No John Wick Chapter 5 story details have been revealed, and it will certainly be a difficult thing to bring the character back after his fitting death. The John Wick franchise is on an incredible winning streak with only the likes of Mission Impossible seeming to get better with each new installment. Each sequel has delivered what fans expect while also telling a worthwhile expansion of the story. However, as many franchises before have shown, knowing when to quit is essential to a franchise's legacy. John dying as he accomplishes his impossible mission is a fitting end. Bringing him back in John Wick Chapter 5 means that killing him off a second time would be cheap, and it is hard to imagine another ending being as effective. However, it can also not be forgotten that the John Wick franchise has defied the odds from the beginning. It went from a small action movie to one of the best action franchises of all time, so there is no telling how the franchise would upend expectations by bringing John back from the dead.